Hi everyone, today I'm starting a new video series called Becoming the New Quantum Human. So what I'm going to do in each episode is pick a skill and describe how I see it as being different between the current 3D human template and the new 5D human template. So today I'm going to look at choice or decision making. So when we look at the current paradigm about making a choice, basically it looks like this. You're going along with your life and then for some reason you hit a point where you're going to make a decision. So generally there'll just be two options and it's a very linear way of looking at decision making. Whereas in the 5D quantum world, we know that it's not linear. So instead we see ourselves as being in a moment. And in each moment, we have infinite possibilities of what could happen in the next moment. So we then follow a timeline and we go to the next moment. And in that moment, we have the same number of infinite possibilities of what could happen next. And then on to the next moment. So basically what happens is we see our life as a series of moments, and that within these moments we have infinite possibility as to what could happen next. So that's a very quantum way of looking at choice. The interesting thing is if you look at 3D choice making, there are moments. This whole line here of our life is actually a series of moments, but we don't actually see ourselves as having any influence or control over those moments. In fact, we just let them happen. We may actually say that in that string of moments, we're actually just running a program, which is an unconscious way of being, instead of seeing that there is infinite potential in each moment. So when we look at our 3D choices, really, we think that they just happen. We think that we're just faced with some type of moment of truth that's come into our life for whatever reason, that we then have to make a decision. Whereas in the 5D world, we realize that everything has a reason. And in fact, this moment of decision has come to us based on our frequency. So our frequency being, of course, our inner world. So when we look at it from that perspective, what we can see is that in each moment we're putting out a frequency, and what's happening is the next moment is being drawn towards us based on our frequency. And that is what could be called the law of attraction, that whatever happens and whatever we perceive in our outside world must match our inner frequency. Whereas over here, we're basically saying that stuff just happens. So then the interesting point is, if everything happens for a reason, well, what's the reason? And we've said it's frequency, but there's a bigger picture than that, and that is that life is continually evolving and expanding. And so as such, we might say that if we've been given a choice point in 5D, that it's really because it is mirroring to us something in our inside world. And what I see it is mirroring a mismatch. It's a mismatch between our current version of self and our desired version of self. And it's kind of like the universe showing us that this mismatch exists so that we can do something about it. So I'm just going to write that down, that it's mirroring a mismatch. So the other thing that's different here then, if we see that this is all happening for a reason and we're drawing these moments towards us as a mirror of our frequency and things that are ready to change, over in this world, we actually think that it's our choices that create the future. So we think that when we make a choice, that it's going to create our future and create a different future. So, as an example here, we're saying, I don't like my job, it's forming a tension, I've got to, do I stay in my current job or do I go to a new job? That might be a typical moment of truth, and you feel that whatever decision you make is going to create your future. And because we think that our choices create our future, we put a lot of importance on our choices. So we're always second guessing, we're always doubting and wondering what would have happened if I took a different choice. And this is where I think the 5D explanation of decision making is completely different and can help us look at it differently. So in 5D, we realize that choice is an illusion. Yes, it's an illusion because it doesn't matter what we choose. Whatever we choose is going to be a new moment that perfectly mirrors our frequency. So what this does is mean that decision making almost becomes obsolete. So let me explain that. We talked before about the job. So I'm on this linear timeline. Do I take the job? Do I not take the job? Now the frequency that we transmit that pulls the next moment to us is based on our inner world, our beliefs, our thoughts and emotions. So when we're faced with a new choice, and we've said that it tends to mirror a mismatch between our current and desired self, it normally points towards a limited belief system or a faulty belief system that needs to be healed. So in the case of the job, the choice is being attracted to us, let's say, because we have a belief system that we're not worthy, or we feel inadequate, or there's something wrong with us. And that would be having us look for something outside of us to solve that. But the thing is, if we have that belief system, it doesn't matter whether we stay in the job or we take the new job. Whatever choice we make will reflect that frequency. We could stay in the existing job and it will stay the same. We could take the new job, or it could be perhaps a different environment, but the same dynamics playing out with our work colleagues. So in a way, decision making becomes irrelevant. It doesn't matter what we choose. So all of this idea of creating our future through choice, actually, it doesn't really work that way. Whereas if we look at it from the quantum level and we say, well, I'm being presented here with a mismatch because I'm feeling this pull towards taking a new job, and what does that mean? If we then take the opportunity to look at our inner world and what's going on with our belief systems, and perhaps healing that, so suddenly we realize that we have a feeling that we're inadequate in our current job, and so what we decide to do instead is work on that and realize that actually we are adequate. And from that point, as soon as we switch our inner world, we put out a new frequency, so we pull a different moment towards us. So in that case, if you were to stay in the existing job, the job could change, a promotion could come. There's many different things that could happen in that job to mirror your new frequency. If you take a new job, yes, it could work out to be better pay, more rewarding in some way. So in a way, once again, the choice itself is irrelevant. What really mattered was changing our inner world or our frequency to pull a different moment towards us. So what that means is that instead of having all these expectations about our choices and how they're going to impact our future, instead we realize that we can't expect anything. We don't know what's going to happen. All we know is that it's going to match our frequency. So instead, we come with an element of surprise. I can influence what's the moments that are going to be pulled towards me by changing my inner world and changing my frequency. But what is actually going to happen, the moment that's going to get pulled towards me, is going to be a complete surprise. It's kind of like the poker machine theory, where if you put money in the poker machine all the time and you just win every time, it becomes a bit boring. Whereas if it's a surprise, whether you do win and when you win, then you just keep doing it. And that's almost the same way that life works. So instead of trying to control our future and control our life, which we can't actually do even by making decisions, instead we can surrender to this amazing process of creating our life moment by moment based on our inner world. And to summarize, what I think is the take-home point from this is the whole concept of free will. Do we really have free will? So over here in 3D, we believe that we have free will because we're able to make different choices. But what we've just seen is that we don't really. It doesn't matter what we choose. The same outcome will eventuate. It might look a bit different. So instead, 5D decision making, we realize that our free will is actually based on our frequency. We have the free will to put out any frequency that we want. We can put out a positive frequency, a negative frequency. We can do work on ourselves to change our frequency. And we understand that that's where we have influence, that's where we have control, and that's where we can actually change our future. So in a way, yes, we do have free will because we can influence it, but we certainly can't control it through our choices. So I hope that that's given you a new way to think about choice, and to also consider the infinite possibilities that we're surrounded with, and how we can also change our inner world and change our frequency to influence our future. I think it's such a creative way to look at decision making as opposed to the current 3D model of, control and the power of choice that doesn't really seem to exist. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.